Ada is a miserable loser who gave up on love after his parents divorced and abandoned him. However, everything changes when the hottest girl in school blackmails him into being her boyfriend, but he ends up falling in love. When Ada was young, his parents cheated on each other with $2 hoes and abandoned him after getting divorced. Because of this, he no longer believes in the idea of love and now lives at his aunt, Seiko's place, where he puts all his efforts into studying to gain a scholarship into the school of his dreams. His female bestie, Chiwa, visits him regularly to spend time with him because she low-key has a crush on him, but Ada leaves her deep in the friend zone because he has no intention of falling in love. One day in school, the teacher announces that everyone in class will be changing seats, and the students pull a lottery to get their new seating positions. After Ada takes his seat, he hears all the gooners in class freaking out like Mia Khalifa just came out of retirement. When he looks up, he sees a gorgeous white-haired baddie named Ma Suzu walking towards him, and after taking the seat beside him, she calmly greets him. Later that evening, Ada is having dinner with Chiwa, and he informs her that he's now seated beside Ma Suzu, and this makes her freak out, thinking he's finally about to bag a 10, but he assures her that nothing will change. The next day, Ada walks into class to the sight of his classmates, giving him bombastic side eyes out of jealousy, but he hates the attention because his only goal is to study hard and receive a scholarship for the school of his dreams. As Ada tries to study in class, he notices that Ma Suzu is staring at him gleefully, but he resists her charms by reminding himself that he doesn't want to fall in love. However, after school, Ma Suzu gives him the shock of his life by asking to walk home with him. After calming himself down, he asks her if she's trying to embarrass him, but Ma Suzu confesses that she likes him and can't stop gooning to him, causing the entire class to lose their minds. Seeing this, Ma Suzu begs Ada to take her away from the chaos, so he walks outside with her, where he notices that everyone is staring at them. Out of desperation, he takes her to a garden nearby, where he tells her to stop the lover-girl act, and she indeed admits that her love confession was a lie. She then explains that she's grown tired of the countless love confessions she's received ever since she joined the school, so Ada suggests that she date one of her admirers to make the others back off. However, she reveals that she hates love just as much as he does and asks him to be her pretend boyfriend, since they're alike, but Ada refuses because he doesn't want to get slimed out by haters. Despite this, Ma Suzu says she won't back down because he's the only one she can trust to never betray her, and she teases him by reading the corny anime villain lines he wrote in his notebook. Ada is shocked that she has his notebook, so she explains that she found it at the bookstore after he accidentally left it behind there. He tries to take the book back, but she informs him that she's already made copies of the pages and playfully threatens to post them on Twitter, so he finally agrees to be her pretend boyfriend. As they walk home together, Ada is worried that the rumor of their relationship is already spreading like wildfire in school, and he's confident that Chiwa won't let it slide. Like clockwork, Chiwa suddenly arrives and yells at them for holding hands, so Ma Suzu asks who she is, and she introduces herself as his close friend. When Chiwa asks why Ada didn't tell her about his relationship, he lies that it all happened so fast. But Ma Suzu interrupts by telling her that she doesn't need her permission to date Ada or eat his sausage. However, Chiwa argues that she'd have to go through her to date Ada, so Ma Suzu poses like a Bridgerton character while jestfully asking for her permission to date him. The next morning, Ada sees Chiwa outside swinging a kendo stick like a soul raper, and he reminds her that she's not meant to be doing kendo, but she explains that the doctor only forbade her from participating in matches. As he walks back inside, Chiwa stops him and promises him that she'll get a boyfriend more handsome and popular than Justin Bieber. The next day in class, Kaoru asks Ada how he suddenly went from being reverse Cupid to dating the prettiest girl in school, but he claims that he's surprised as well. When he remembers how people stare at them and gossip when they walk together, he finally understands how Ma Suzu feels. Kaoru asks why he's not eating lunch with Ma Suzu, so he points out that she isn't in class and explains that he can't have lunch with Chiwa as well since she's been avoiding him. After telling him about all the weird habits Chiwa is now displaying, Kaoru advises Ada that he should clear things up with her properly before dating Ma Suzu, since she's family to him. After school, Ada is walking home with Ma Suzu, and he asks her if he can tell Chiwa about their secret, but she refuses because she feels that revealing it to even one person will destroy the whole operation. She then asks him to bring Chiwa to her the next day, but when he asks why, she says he'll have to wait to find out. The next day, Ada takes Chiwa to a room where Ma Suzu is dressed in a yukata, and she invites Chiwa to join her club because she heard Chiwa has been having problems becoming popular with guys. She then starts bragging about how popular she's become and claims that it's Ada's book that helped her become popular, so Ada tries to take it from her, but Chiwa pulls him back and asks what's in the notebook. Ma Suzu says the book is filled with memories left behind by her first love, and it's an information journal about how to be attractive to the opposite gender, which her club uses for research. When Chiwa asks what happened to her first love, Ma Suzu says he was run over by Truck Kun after cheating on her with the neighborhood bop, and she passionately asks Chiwa to let her be her wing woman, but Chiwa explains that she isn't comfortable with getting help without giving anything in return. However, Ma Suzu claims that she and Ada will be doing heated backstrokes together in the club room if she doesn't join because Ada is the club advisor, so she finally agrees to join. Ada brings up the fact that they need permission to form a club, so Ma Suzu explains that the club room used to be owned by the teen club before it was disbanded, and she asked the T club's moderator to be the moderator for their club. Despite this, Ada still thinks their club won't work, since it's basically about creating more Bonnie Blues, but Ma Suzu gives the club a long, elegant name to make it sound more like an elite and respectable society, which makes Chiwa excited. During lunch the next day, Kaoru brings up the fact that Chiwa is taking their club seriously, and Ada says he's happy about this because she's needed a way to release her pent-up energy ever since the doctor ruled out kendo. Hours later, the trio convenes in their club room, and Ma Suzu tells Chiwa that she needs to find a guy she'll target to make her boyfriend. So she chooses a third-year basketball guy named Saka Gagami, whom her class girls have been thirsting for. Ada says he's a good choice since he's popular, and Ma Suzu adds that it would be easy to get his attention since his younger brother is in their class. However, they notice that Chiwa isn't excited, so Ma Suzu starts reading a page of the sacred notebook, which contains Ada's browser history, causing him to drown in embarrassment. She then hands Chiwa an empty guitar case and tells her to carry it everywhere she goes while pretending to be a guitarist. But Chiwa says she isn't familiar with guitarists or Western music, so Ma Suzu advises her to just list some stands from JoJo Part 4 if anyone asks about her music taste. However, Chiwa reveals that she hasn't watched JoJo's, so Ma Suzu freaks out and tells her to binge the entire series as soon as she can. The next day in class, Chiwa shows up with a guitar, and Ada fears that their plan won't work, but some girls suddenly approach her and excitedly ask about her music taste. Chiwa claims that she's a huge fan of Chili Peppers, obviously referring to the stand in JoJo, but when girls start mentioning some other similar tracks and songs, the airhead gets lost mid-conversation. As the girls pester her to play the guitar, Sakagami's younger brother shows up and begs her to play the song as well, so she geeks out like a Joestar while spinning her guitar and runs away from embarrassment, causing Ma Suzu to laugh at her. As Ma Suzu walks into class, she explains to Chiwa that her plan actually succeeded because it made people interested in her. But when Chiwa asks why Ada is interested in her, she claims that it's because he saw her plot covers. After Chiwa is done restructuring Ada's face, Ma Suzu advises her to show off her tiny peach protectors to her crush as well, but she refuses because the technique is too cultured for her. Ma Suzu then starts teasing Ada by flashing her plot covers, and as he freaks out, she lies to Chiwa that they're staring into each other's eyes, but this makes her so jealous that she walks away. After she leaves, Ada tells Ma Suzu that he's sure Chiwa won't quit their club until she achieves her goal because she was a star of the kendo team during their last year of school until she badly injured her lower back that summer. She recovered up to the point where the injury doesn't affect her daily life, but she lost the goal she once had since she can't participate in kendo matches again. However, she's now found something she can pour her heart into again, and that's why Ada is confident that she won't quit. After hearing all this, Ma Suzu suddenly hugs Ada and tells him not to pay attention to other girls while he's with her because she wants to take their false relationship very seriously. During another club meeting, Ma Suzu suggests that they should fight against something, and when Ada asks what they should fight against, she reads a page from his sacred notebook where he spoke about his adventures in the Elden Ring using corny otaku slang. When she's done draining Ada emotionally, she suggests that Chiwa fight beings from her past life, so Chiwa starts fantasizing about a past life where she lived as a foodie version of Cinderella. However, Ada's gamer spirit takes over, causing him to geek out about how she needs to add more drama to her story and turn it into a mystery show with zombies. When he's done with his delusional yapping, Shane covers him like a jacket, but Ma Suzu says he's right because adding drama to her past life would definitely make her popular. Chiwa asks who she has to fight, but Ma Suzu says she doesn't actually have to fight anyone, but needs to pretend like she's acting in an action drama and promises to give her a script the next day. During class the next day, Chiwa suddenly enters class and starts acting like a Harry Potter character, and Ada backs her up by pulling a DiCaprio-level performance alongside her until she finally finishes her lines. After she leaves, everyone in class starts clapping for Ada and praising his acting skills, but Ma Suzu is emotionally shattered because they called the script she poured her heart into writing a mere sketch. Hours later, they convene in their club room, and Ma Suzu decides that it's time for Chiwa to ask Sakagame because she believes that he's currently deeply in love with her, but Ada says it's impossible since they called the performance a sketch. This makes Chiwa depressed, so Ma Suzu cheers her up by explaining that Sakagame would have loved to see the guitar thing and her past life play for himself, but Ada argues that it won't make him fall in love with her even if he enjoyed them. Ma Suzu agrees with this, so she tries to think up another plan, but Chiwa decides that she'll ask Sakagame out and drink 5 bottles of copium if he says no. Hearing this, Ma Suzu presumes that she wants to be rejected, but Chiwa denies this, so she suggests that they proceed with the plan using the traditional method of placing a letter in his shoe locker. After school, as Ada and Chiwa are shopping together, he asks if she's sure about asking Sakagame out, and she confirms that she's ready, so he wishes her good luck and promises to celebrate with her if they end up successful. The next day, she puts the love letter in Sakagame's locker and waits for him patiently on the roof, while Eita and Ma Suzu watch from a hiding spot above. When Sakagame arrives, he immediately agrees to date her because he always thought she was cute, and Ada is completely shocked to hear this. He then praises her for her guitar performance and drama, claiming that he likes girls with mysterious sides, and he asks her to meet him at the movies on Sunday, so she cheerfully agrees. On the way home, Ma Suzu claims that Chiwa's romantic triumph is a big win for the club and proof that the notebook is truly more valuable than the death note, and Chiwa says the person who writes it is an amazing person. However, Ada argues that it's a piece of trash that talks about ridiculous things like guitars and past lives, but Chiwa says it's pretty cool that he believed in such things without fear or hesitation, which makes him even more confused. Ma Suzu then reminds Chiwa that her real battle starts during the date, and Chiwa thanks her for her efforts, but Ma Suzu notices that she's not acting happy about it, so Chiwa laughs to hide her grumpy mood. Later that evening, Ada calls Chiwa to have dinner with him because he's prepared all her favorite foods to celebrate the fact that she got a boyfriend as handsome as Brad Pitt. As he dishes the food, Chiwa gets emotional and asks Ada if he's okay with her dating Sakagame, so he reminds her that her hard work has paid off. However, she argues that it hasn't, and as tears spill from her eyes, she tells him that she wishes they had met as normal classmates, and not old friends. To calm her down, Ada reminds her that she's like family to him since they've known each other, but this only makes her cry even more, so she slaps his hand away and runs out of his home. Some time ago, Chiwa visited Ada with crutches, and he was worried because she was meant to be resting at the hospital, but she explained that she wanted to practice walking in his home. After handing him her crutches, she cheerfully hops into his house, making him feel relieved that she's recovering smoothly. While sitting down, she informed him that she'd start walking again soon since the doctor would take off her cast by the end of the week. However, she revealed that the doctor told her to quit kendo because she had a serious injury in her hip, and Ada assumed that the doctor was a quack, but she said it was the best doctor in the city. When she asked Ada about his parents, he told her about how the deadbeats ditched him after cheating on each other and revealed his plans to live with his aunt since none of his relatives would take him in. However, she begged him not to go anywhere, so he decided to remain at home and offered to prepare dinner for them. Even though the dinner turned out messy, they enjoyed it together, and when Chika asked Ada for his goal in school, he revealed that it's to study hard and become a doctor capable of healing her hip injury. This made her burst into tears while calling him an idiot, but he promised her that he'd become the new Dr. Stone and heal her hip, so she promised to wait for him. Now, in the present, Ada feels like an idiot for aiming to advance in medical sciences, and both of his girls conclude that he's an idiot as well. The next morning, Ada realizes he overslept, so he runs as the Flash to a park, where he runs into Ma Suzu, who reveals that she intends to eavesdrop on Chiwa's date as the president of their club. However, Ada decides that they'll leave after seeing them meet up because he has to go to the library afterwards, but Ma Suzu suddenly presses her melons on his arms and asks him to pretend to be her boyfriend at all times. When Chiwa arrives, Ada is shocked that she's wearing something nice for once, but Ma Suzu reveals that they're the clothes she wore several years ago. As Chiwa waits for Sakagami, Ada complains that he's running late when the guy is normally early for those kinds of activities, and Chiwa checks her phone for messages but sees nothing. After several minutes of waiting, Ada starts praying for Chiwa to just go home, but suddenly, Sakagami arrives with a bunch of his hoes and laughs at her for actually waiting for him. He reveals that it was all a prank, and they all call her a delusional brat for thinking he'd actually want to date her. And Masuzu explains to Ada that Sakagami is actually a piece of gutter trash that hides his true personality behind smiles at school while cheating on several women at once. Hearing this, Ada is angry that she kept this a secret, and he tries to intervene in the situation. But Masuzu holds him back and explains that she's doing it so that Chiwa will learn that love is pointless and become an anti-love like both of them. However, Ada angrily accuses her of deceiving Chiwa with a fake club, and Masuzu confirms that it was indeed all a lie, so he yells at her to stop acting all twisted. She points out that he's just as twisted as she is, and he admits that he is, but says it doesn't mean she can force others to feel as hopeless as they do. In a calmer tone, he tells her that Chiwa isn't like them and tries to walk away, but Masuzu holds him back and tells him not to leave her because, deep down, she's scared of being alone again. However, Ada flicks her on the head and tells her to keep her chin up so she'll see her boyfriend saving the day before dashing away. While imagining himself as Superman, Eita charges right in front of Sakagami and his bullies and goes full geek mode as he passionately roleplays a Super Saiyan, but this only creeps them out, so they decide to walk away. Suddenly, Eita tackles Sakagami from behind and tells him to apologize, but one of the things kicks him away, and Sakagami stomps on him while asking what his deal is, so he tells them to apologize to Chiwa. He grabs Sakagami's leg to stop him from leaving, but one of the scumbags kicks him away, and Sakagami decides that they'll beat him up until the cops arrive. As they kick him around, Ada suddenly bites Sakagami on the leg, causing him to leap away in pain, and as he gets up, he passionately claims that he won't lose because Chiwa is watching. Despite this, Sakagami and his crew start punching him around again, so Chiwa begs Ada to stop fighting the creeps, but one of the thugs gets annoyed by this and moves in to attack her. However, a baton suddenly lands in front of Chiwa, and she uses it to deliver a swift attack, which knocks the ugly loser out. Seeing this, a second thug tries to attack, but she knocks him down as well and pummels both of them at once. Sakagami then charges in to attack her, but she delivers several brutal strikes to him before explaining that she didn't like him at all and was only going after him because of an incident with Ada. She then asks if they can act like none of the drama ever happened, and Sakagami agrees because he doesn't want to see her again, so she cheerfully thanks him. When she approaches Ada, she teases him for looking like a used gooning rag after boldly declaring that he wouldn't lose, and she asks if he was the girl he referred to during his dramatic speech, but he claims that it isn't her. The next day, everyone in class is staring at a battered-up Ada, so Kaoru explains that he's become a celebrity overnight because his actions revealed the truth about Sakagami to the whole school. He then points out that Masuzu isn't in class that day and presumes that she's mad that she left her to go be another girl's knight in shining armor, but Ada says he wasn't trying to be anyone's knight in shining armor. On his way home, Masuzu suddenly hugs him from behind, so he thanks her for throwing the pole during the fight the previous day, and she claims that she was just doing her job as a girlfriend. When he asks why she skipped school, she explains that she was playing a sick version of herself for the sake of the club because she intends to keep it going until Chiwa gives up on love. He then asks why she hasn't given up, and she says it's because she's twisted, so he points out that she's using his words from earlier against him, which makes her blush while looking away. As they walk ahead, Ada tells Masuzu that Chiwa will keep coming to the club since she was rejected, and she's surprised that he knows everything about her, so he reminds her that they're close friends. Suddenly, Masuzu kisses Ada, which shocks him since it's 5 seasons earlier than most rom-com anime, and she tells him to always remember that his first kiss belonged to her and not Chiwa, but immediately gets flustered. Ada asks her if she's okay that her first kiss is with a fake boyfriend, but she explains that it had to be him because she was doing a parody of when Dio stole Arena's first kiss in JoJo, which could only be enjoyed by a fellow JoJo fan. The next morning, Ada enters his bathroom, and he sees Chiwa casually having a bath, which makes him freak out. When he asks what she's doing there, she explains that she texted him previously to inform him that her shower was broken and she needed to borrow hers. He then apologizes for causing the whole Sakagami fiasco, so she asks him to make it up to her by walking her home from school the next day because she doesn't intend to let Masuzu have him. However, when Ada walks into the kitchen, he sees Ma Suzu chilling there in an apron, and she explains that she initially texted him that she'd be there that morning. The girls make him run back and forth for several minutes with their demands until they both open the door and spot each other, leading to an intense stare-down between them. A few days later, Ada rushes to a secret location to open up a love letter he found in his locker. In the letter, the secret admirer confesses that they've always loved him and they want to restore the connection they once had long ago. Soon after, he tells Kaoru about this, and he guesses that it could be Chiwa since he now has a girlfriend, but Ada refuses to believe that the lolly has enough brain cells to write it. Hours later, they're chilling in the clubroom together, and Ada tells Chiwa that Ma Suzu isn't there because she has things to do, so Chiwa rests on his body and explains that she's practicing what she'd do if she gets a boyfriend. This makes him suspect that the letter could actually be from Chiwa, but before he can ask her, Ma Suzu suddenly arrives and bashes her empty skull into the desk. As Chiwa yells at her, Ma Suzu claims that she was simply handling a boyfriend thief, so Chiwa explains that she was only practicing what she'd do if she got a boyfriend. Ma Suzu replies that she'll never have a boyfriend if she doesn't finish all of JoJo, but she switches gears by bringing up the fact that their club will soon be shut down since it's not yet recognized by the school. To save the club, she suggests that they take down all 3 hall monitors, but Ada says it's a dumb idea, so Chiwa suggests that they recruit 2 more members, which earns her some praise from Ma Suzu. To kickstart this mission, Ma Suzu decides that they should first form a song for their club that would entice people into joining their club, and Chiwa informs her that she already has a song prepared, so Ma Suzu asks her to perform it. However, the song ends up being worse than Drake's recent track, so Ma Suzu stops her and decides to show her what real art is by reading the sacred notebook, causing Ada to twitch in embarrassment once again. Hours later, Ada is at his locker trying to figure out who sent him the letter, but Ma Suzu suddenly arrives and spots him hiding it, so she takes him to a beach, where she asks why he was focusing intensely on Chiwa in the clubroom. He explains that it's not what she thinks, but she warns him not to pay attention to other girls when she's around and starts reading out his notebook to blackmail him into spilling his secret. However, a blonde loli suddenly arrives and says that Ada looks too average to be Ma Suzu's boyfriend, and Ma Suzu angrily asks why she's there, so she explains that she's just there to take a look at her boyfriend. After toying with them some more, the girl reveals that she was sent by the person who brought Ma Suzu to Japan, and they're furious because of her current relationship, but she promises to put in a good word for her. Despite this, Ada notices that Ma Suzu looks scared, but the blondie suddenly kisses him and introduces herself as Ma Suzu's younger sister, Mana, before riding away in her limousine. Ada tries to ask Ma Suzu about the situation with her sister, but she tells him that she angrily tells him not to ask about it. During swimming class, Ida asks Ma Suzu why she's sitting at the shore, and she explains that she doesn't like swimming, so he comforts her by narrating how the deep died in the boys' finale. However, some girls suddenly walk by and start gossiping about how Ma Suzu is covering herself up for attention, so Ma Suzu decides to take a swim. When she takes off her towel, all the boys start celebrating, thinking they're about to watch a life-changing display of jiggle physics with her swimming, but Ma Suzu ends up drowning. After getting her out of the water, Ada tries to call a teacher to help, but he sees that the teacher is already preoccupied helping another student who drowned, so he mans up and gives her mouth-to-mouth until she wakes up. A while later, Ma Suzu is resting in bed, and she admits that it bothered her when Mana kissed her, even though she initially thought kissing was nothing more than 2 people joining lips together. Ada is relieved because he thought she was angry at him for prying into her secrets, and he tells her not to worry about the kiss anymore since he's already overwritten it, but this makes both of them blush. Meanwhile, Chiwa is standing somewhere in town, and she gets a text from a friend, informing her that Ada and Ma Suzu shared a sloppy kiss, which makes her so jealous that she runs in the rain. However, this ends up giving her a fever, so her mom asks Ada to watch over her while she goes to work the next day, and he agrees. As they sit together in her room, she suddenly asks for a sponge bath, so he helps her scrub her back for several minutes until she tells him it's okay. When he finds a pair of red chopsticks on the table, he asks why she kept them all this time, and she explains that it's because it's tied to her deepest memory, which she doesn't want to forget, even though he has a girlfriend. Hearing this, Ada realizes that she's not the one who sent the letter since his connection with Chiwa is still active, and as she falls asleep, she asks him to stay with her forever, so he assures her that he'll stay with her for the rest of the day. The next morning, Chiwa is completely healed, so Ada walks with her to school, where he finds another love letter, this time inviting him to come meet her on the school roof after school. When he arrives there, he sees a girl who uses a Nintendo console to confess that she loves him, but he says he doesn't understand what she means by their past connection, so she introduces herself as Hime, his former partner in his favorite video game. However, Ada is confused by how she knows he's the one from the video game, so she explains that she saw him using the same lines he used to recite in the video game while fighting thugs at the park, and this made her fall in love with him again. As she cuddles him, Ma Suzu suddenly arrives with Chiwa and asks who she is. As the girls approach them, Ada immediately tells Hime not to let them know they were lovers in their past lives, but when they ask her to introduce herself, she claims that she's Ada's ex-girlfriend, leaving everyone shocked. When she asks who they are, Ma Suzu introduces herself as Ada's girlfriend, and this makes Hime crash out like a spoiled brat, claiming that she's the only one who should be allowed to hug Ada. The next day, Ada walks through the school hallway, wondering what Hime loves about him, and when he enters the club room, he's shocked to see her there chilling with the other girls. When he asks why she's there, Ma Suzu explains that she invited her for tea because she knows about their history as gaming partners and wants to recruit her to join their club. However, Chiwa suddenly arrives and objects to the motion, claiming that Hime only wants Ada and not to be popular. But Ma Suzu pulls an Uno reverse by pointing out it's the same for her as well. When Chiwa asks Hime if she cares about being popular, she says she doesn't, because she considers the concept of being popular as nothing but a worthless desire among youths. However, Ma Suzu argues that she herself has shown a desire for popularity by using the name Burning Princess in the video game, so she admits that Ma Suzu has a point. She then decides to read some words from the notebook, and Ada tries to stop her, but the other girls hold him back, allowing her to read another parable of Ada's youthful stupidity. The embarrassment overwhelms Ada so much that he breaks free from the hold of the girls and rushes to stop her, but he's knocked down by a table, so she spends the next several minutes reading a page in the notebook where he wrote cringe lines about his favorite voice actresses. When she's done, the girls are confused by the fact that there were lines from 5 voice actresses instead of the 4 originally promised at the start, so Ma Suzu explains that the owner of the book had latent riz that pulled a 5th baddie to him. Ma Suzu then instructs Hime to describe the type of maiden she wants to be in the form of a poem to join the club, but Chiwa argues that it's too easy and suggests that she do a practical task instead. Later in the hallway, Chiwa explains that she wants Hime to act like the kind of corny anime rom-com girl she wants to be, and Ada would be the one on the receiving end. After Chiwa and Ma Suzu give her some brutal demonstrations, Hime eats a snack to prepare herself, but ends up getting sick, so Ada holds on to her until the disciplinary committee arrives and scolds them for indecency. Hours later, Hime wakes up from her rest in the club room and asks Ada where the girls are, so he reveals that the hall monitors took her away and asks her why she's so dead set on making him her boyfriend. Hime explains that she used to expect school to be a blissful world, but when she joined, nothing changed because everyone still ignored her and treated her like trash, making her see them as colorless characters. However, she claims that Ada is different because his nerdy display of heroism at the station felt cool and colorful, but Ada tells her he's outgrown all the anime character roleplay. Despite this, she holds his hand and claims that he's the only one who can bring color to her gray world. The next day, the club members are all cleaning the pool together, and Ada complains about it since he planned to spend the Saturday gooning to Victoria Cake's videos, so Chiwa reminds him that it's the hall monitors who decided it as punishment. When Chiwa asks why Hime isn't with them, Ma Suzu reminds her that she isn't an official member yet, but Ada reveals that she's working hard on the poem, so she can eventually join the club. Just then, Mana arrives in her limousine and informs Ma Suzu that her efforts to put in a good word for her failed, because their dad only got angrier, and now issued an order for Ma Suzu to come back home immediately, or else he'll personally drag her out of her mansion. Ma Suzu says she doesn't want him there, so Mana asks her to get in the car, and she finally agrees. When Ada asks where her home is, she reveals that it's in Sweden and guesses that she may never be able to come to Japan if she leaves. Ada is worried that it's not what she wants, but she tells him she doesn't like him anymore and wishes him happiness with Chiwa as she walks away. Just then, Hime arrives with her newly finished poem and asks about Ma Suzu, but Mana suddenly snatches the book from her hands, so Ada tries to get it back. However, Mana hides behind her bodyguard, and tells him that she wants to find out the kind of club Masuzu made so she can tell her dad about it, but he still insists that she return it because Hime poured her heart into it. While reading it, Mana laughs jestfully while mocking the words, and Hime starts crying, but she ignores her and continues mocking her until Hime falls to her knees in agony. Boiling in rage, Ada powers through the bodyguard and tries to approach her, but the bodyguard pulls him back. So he tells her to stop mocking the fantasies of others and preaches about all the fantasies he's ever had. However, she calls him an idiot and reminds him that fantasies never come true, but even as her bodyguard pins him down, Ada still tenaciously asks her to apologize to Hime and introduces himself as Masuzu's boyfriend, Chiwa's close friend, and Hime's ex-boyfriend. Just then, Masuzu returns and tells Mana to stop since they did nothing wrong, but as Ada says some words of motivation to Hime, Mana tries to mock them again, so he calls her a dumb blonde while asking her to mind her business. Mana sends her bodyguard, Yasuoka, to bash his skull for insulting her. But Hime moves in front of him and tells them to leave because she and Ada have finally found where they belong in Masuzu's club, and everyone is stunned by her audacity. When Ada asks Masuzu what she wants to do, she tells Mana that she'll stay there and scolds Mana until she finally apologizes to Hime. She then tells Mana to report to their dad that she isn't coming home, and she'll remain in her mansion until their mom returns. But Mana argues that their mom would never come back after all that's happened. After she leaves, Ada suddenly collapses from exhaustion, and when he wakes up, Masuzu rests on his shoulder until the other two girls arrive. When Hime shows Masuzu her poem, she finally approves her request to join the club, and everyone congratulates her. Some days later, Ada wakes up to the shocking sight of Hime sleeping beside him with her vanilla-flavored cupcakes fully exposed. So he jumps out of bed and asks why she's wearing her natural bathing suit, but she suddenly hugs him, which makes him freak out. To make matters worse, Masuzu and Chiwa are outside, banging the door loudly, and this makes Aida tremble in fear. But the pea-brain gamer girl accidentally opens up the door, so Ada swiftly hides behind the curtain from the other two. However, they immediately spot Ada in his hiding spot, so Masuzu moves in to open up the curtain while Hime tries desperately to distract her. But a hall monitor named Fuyumi suddenly arrives and asks what they're doing. Fuyume then scolds them for turning the nurse's office into a playground, and points out that Hime used to be a model student before Masuzu and the gang turned her into a desperate $2 hoe. Afterwards, Fuyumi informs them that their club has been ordered to disband, but Chiwa starts teasing her and claims that she's only jealous because the club members are trying to get famous while she remains hopelessly single. This makes her embarrassed, and she loudly declares that she has a boyfriend, but when Masuzu asks her who the boyfriend is, she lies that it's an older American billionaire named Michael. As they walk away, she asks about Ada, but when they ask why she's looking for him, she bluntly dismisses them and walks away. Following this, Fuyume forces their club to shut down, and all their meetings over summer vacations reach an end, but Ada sees this as a blessing because his daily supplementary classes start that day. However, when he enters the building, he runs into Fuyumi, who asks why he's there, so he explains that he's there for summer school in Class Z, and this makes her celebrate like she's just won the lottery since it's her class as well. Ada then asks if she's gunning for a top university, but she says she hasn't decided yet because she wants to be prepared for any eventuality, and she doesn't want to panic while she's in her third year. Suddenly, she switches gears and starts acting salty to him because she finally remembered that she's meant to be enemies with his club, so she warns him not to infect her with the Gunnar virus before walking away. Just then, Kaoru arrives and reveals that he and Fuyumi used to be classmates in their previous school, but he's shocked that she's taking summer classes as well. During the class, Kaoru and Fuyumi talk about old times while Ada watches from a distance, and he still can't wrap his head around the fact that they know each other. Later that evening, Ada and Chiwa are having dinner together, and she offers to join his classes so they'd always be together. But Ada changes the subject by bringing up the fact that Fuyumi was in class. Chiwa starts ranting about the fact that Fuyumi has a boyfriend, so Ada asks if she has bad blood with her, and she reveals that Fuyumi has had a grudge against her ever since the day she was once called to the faculty room for fighting with her. She then asks him if he's doing something on August 4th, so she asks what's happening that day, and she reveals that it's the Hana Fireworks Festival, which she couldn't attend the previous year. When she asks Ada to come with her, he has a flashback of a fireworks show he once attended with a young snow bunny in the past, so he refuses her offer, claiming he has to spend all his time studying that summer. During Ada's study session, he gets a voice message from Ma Suzu doing a goofy Madara impression while inviting him to meet her at a diner, and this makes him remember that he has a girlfriend. When he arrives there, Ma Suzu tells him to dig up some dirty laundry on Fuyumi because it's the only way they can get their club back and prevent the hall monitors from interfering again. She then points out that Fuyumi's claim of having a boyfriend is a complete lie and asks him to gather evidence that her so-called Michael is a fabrication. The next day, Ada is chilling with Kaoru during summer class, and Kaoru brings up how Fuyume was pissed off when guys were pestering her earlier, making Ada wonder if she really does have a boyfriend. Kaoru then starts yapping about how Fuyume is cute and great at cooking, so Ada asks if he likes her, but Kaoru says it's impossible and reveals that there's already someone she likes. After dragging Fuyume to their seat, he asks her to greet Ada, but she just calls him an idiot repeatedly, so he scolds her. As Kaoru tells Ada about their friendship, Fuyumi continues to act salty towards Ada, so he reminds her that he's trying to be her wingman. He then suggests that she give him the gift she got him, so she hands Ada some homemade meals she made him, and when he takes a bite, he praises her cooking skills, which makes her so flustered that she dashes away like a Looney Tunes character. After she leaves, Kaoru asks Ada to be understanding of Fuyume's defensive attitude since she has a reason for it, but Ada asks why he's telling him that instead of her boyfriend, Michael. After the summer class, Ada tells them that he plans to eat alone for dinner since Chiwa is out with her parents, so Kaoru suggests that they eat with him and whispers to Fuyume that it's her golden opportunity to make a move on him, causing her to finally agree. During the dinner date, Fuyume tries to confess the truth to Ada about her made-up boyfriend, but Chiwa suddenly appears and starts pestering her to spill the tea because she didn't buy her boyfriend's story in the first place. However, Ada defends her, claiming that there's no way an honest, pretty girl like her would be single, so she keeps up the facade by claiming that she and Michael crack in dangerous positions every night. Just then, Hime arrives and asks her to give her more information about her dates with Michael since she wants to learn more about the world, so Fuyume cooks up the most diabolical lies possible to explain her romantic experiences with Michael and 3 other guys. After the meal, Ada waves Fuyume goodbye, and his Sigma energy makes her smile as she tells him sayonara as well. A few days later, Masuzu asks Ada if he has any info on Fuyume, and he responds that she definitely has a boyfriend because she bragged about how they started dating for several minutes, but she suggests meeting Michael themselves since she still doesn't believe her. However, Ada tells her to trust him, so she apologizes and explains that she lost the ability to trust people after living her entire life as a fake. But Ada argues that the reason she's in the club is that she trusts him and the girls, but she interrupts him mid-speech with a kiss and cheerfully explains that it's his reward for being thoughtful. The next day, the teacher announces in class that it's a lecture-free day, and Ada brainstorms about how to continue investigating Fuyumi like Masuzu ordered, but Kaoru suddenly arrives with Fuyume and invites him to have drinks with them. After enjoying some ice cream with Fuyumi and Kaoru, Ada returns home, where he cooks up a delicious meal for dinner while telling Chiwa about his mission to spy on Fuyumi. Chiwa then shows him a page from a magazine which has some instructions on how to become popular, but he argues that it sounds too ridiculous to be true, so she informs him that everyone says the charms listed there actually work. Hearing this, Aida suggests that she give it a try, and she decides to start with the first charm, which suggests that she eats her favorite food every day, so Ada gives her an early assist by serving her the elite meal he made. The next day, Ada meets up with Fuyumi and Kaoru, and they tell him about the fireworks show coming home in town. When Fuyume asks if he's going with Chiwa, he reveals that he turned her down after she asked him, and says he'd also turn down Masuzu if she asks him, and this makes her celebrate her charm's success, until Ada falls. Once they've calmed down, Fuyume blushes while asking who he's going with, but Ada says he isn't going that year, so she asks if he's busy that day. Ada explains that he plans to study in that hall that day, but she still suggests that he go to the festival, so he asks her if she's going to the festival with her boyfriend. However, the airhead forgets about her fake story and asks who he's referring to, so Ada reminds her that it's Michael, and she plays it cool by explaining that he isn't in Japan at the moment, which makes her free for the fireworks show. Despite her pestering, Ada still doesn't show interest in the festival, so Kaoru invites them to see Scary Movie 5 with him after school the next day, and they agree to join him. A while later, Ada meets with the other club girls, and Masuzu forms a plan where Ada would gain dirty laundry on Fuyume by taking her on a date and making her fall in love with him, which would essentially create a cheating scenario in her relationship. Hearing this, Ada asks what would happen if she doesn't have a boyfriend. So Ma Suzu explains that after she falls in love with him, they could make her their personal meat puppet and force her to do their bidding. However, Ada claims that he can't steal Fu Yume's heart since he has negative riz, so Ma Suzu reads a page from the sacred book to motivate him. By the time she's done with the reading, Ada is already convulsing on the ground like a hobo overdosed on crystal meth. Several years earlier, Ada met up with a girl in his class named Tanaka, and he teased her for working with the student council, so she started yapping about how everyone thought she was stupid for working with the student council. However, Ada claimed that he was the only guy who didn't think less of her for doing so, and this made her blush like she was about to confess her feelings to him. But she revealed that she was in love with another student named Shiki instead, which crushed his heart. As she confessed her feelings to Shiki, Ada watched from his hiding spot since he couldn't afford Netflix at home, and Shiko confessed that he loves Tanaka back, which made him bash his head on the wall. However, Tanaka heard the sound and called out the eavesdropper, so Ada walked into class and played out his dumb fantasies by punching the wall repeatedly like Luffy before running away in shame like a pathetic moron. As he relives this tragic memory, Ma Suzu adds to their plan by suggesting that Chiwa and Kaoru pair up to make it a double date, while she follows them in secret and waits to take a picture of Fu Yume in a compromising situation. The next day, Ada meets up with Fu Yume and Kaoru, and he stares at Fu Yume's pretty outfit like a piece of steak he wants to devour, so Chiwa jump scares him with a kendo slash. She then greets the others and asks to tag along for their date, but her ostrich brain starts to spiral out of control, so Ma Suzu advises her and Ayata to just act normal, and Kaoru agrees to let her join. As they walk together, Chiwa complains that Fu Yume is getting to walk side by side with her boy toy, but Ma Suzu reminds her that it's part of the plan and asks Ada to make moves that would make Fu Yume fall for him. Fu Yume then asks Ada what he thinks about her clothes, and he tells her that she looks cute, which makes her face glow red like a ketchup bottle. Overwhelmed with emotions, Fu Yume grabs Ada and tries to run with him, but he refuses because it would be cringe, so she asks if he remembers how they used to hold hands while running together years ago. Suddenly, Chiwa slashes in between them, causing them to separate hands, and Ada shocks Fu Yume even more by mentioning that she's his close friend. So Ma Suzu tells Chiwa to stop interfering with the plan. A while later, they're all seated together at the theater, and Ma Suzu tells Ada to make a move to make Fu Yume fall in love with him before ending the call. When the movie begins, a zombie suddenly appears on screen, which makes Fu Yume so scared that she grabs Ada's hands, and Chiwa grabs his other hand out of jealousy. Eventually, the scene shifts to a romantic drama where two girls are fighting over a man, so Fu Yume and Chiwa get up and start yelling at the screen like unemployed football fans, trying to motivate the girls to make their romantic move, but the entire cast ends up dying in an explosion. Several days later, Ada finds a notebook in class where someone was gushing about the person they love, but the owner, Fu Yume, suddenly arrives and tries to take it from him, only to end up spilling his bag. After taking a note from the ground, she runs away, but Ada notices that she took the wrong note because the real love diary is still among the pile. As Ada reads Fu Yume's cringeworthy love talk, Fu Yume runs to a hallway where she finds out that she carried the wrong book, so she runs as fast as she can to take it from him. When she returns to class, Ada tries to deny reading the book, but she chases him around while lying that it's her younger brother's notebook. She eventually takes him into a private room where she starts crying from embarrassment over the fact that Ada has seen her delusional love poems, so Ada apologizes to her and swears that he'll never laugh at her, even if it causes his death. After returning to his feet, he passionately tells her that he'd never make fun of her fantasies because he's the same, and starts acting out his cringe gaming character again, which makes her laugh at him. While returning to her feet, she playfully calls him a moron and states that fantasies are embarrassing, but she suddenly rests on his body while thanking him. She then asks if the words he just yelled are the same thing he said while rushing to Chiwa's rescue, and he admits that it was, while explaining that it wasn't the best way to chase away the jerks. However, she asks him to let her continue resting on his chest for a while longer because she doesn't want him to see the look on his face, so he lets her, even though he doesn't feel comfortable with it. When she finally comes off him, she asks how much of the notebook he read, and he reveals that he only read the poems, which makes her feel relieved. A while later, Ada is studying in the living room, and Chiwa invites him to come to the fireworks show with her and Hime, but he refuses once again, so she decides to go with just Hime. The next day, Ada meets up with Fu Yume, who is all dressed up in festival gear, and they walk together to a spot they were both familiar with when they were younger. They soon arrive at a stream where Ada tells Fu Yume that he once bought a bucket full of crayfish because she wanted to eat them there. Afterwards, they spend several hours exploring the area together, and they eventually find some fireflies around, which leads Ada to a stairway. Ada feels that it's a shortcut to a cedar tree, and when he asks Fuyume, she confirms that it is, which makes him wonder how she knows about it. When the fireworks start blowing up in the sky, Ada cheerfully drags Fuyume up the stairs to see them, and they eventually arrive at the top of the hill, where they admire the beautiful sky view together. Fuyume reveals that he's the one who found that place and told her about it during his last years when she nicknamed him Takun, and he finally remembers when he used to play around with her, so he calls her by her own nickname, Action. With a warm smile, she tells him it's been a while and reveals that Kaoru already knows about their past together, which is why he's been putting in effort to jog Ada's memory so they can reconnect. Hearing this, Ada feels bad for making things hard for Kaoru, but Fuyume says it's fine because she's also keeping one of his secrets safe for him, and explains that she never got Ada's address or number after moving away from town years ago. She recognized him as soon as she got into Hain Academy, but he was always flirting with Chiwa, and she felt hurt by the fact that he saw Chiwa as a beloved friend, while she was his hall monitor from hell. Hearing this, Ada apologizes, but she continues her rant by bringing up how Masuzu and Hime are both girls who hang around him, and asks him how many girls he plans to be with. However, she says it's alright and hands him a marriage certificate, which makes him remember how she repeatedly pestered him with the same marriage certificate years ago until he promised her that he'd agree in 10 years. As Fuyume pressures him to stamp the paper, Ada refuses and reminds her that she has a boyfriend, but she reveals that it was just a lie, which makes him freak out and scold her for lying to him. She yells at him right back for forgetting about their promise, despite the fact that she's loved him all this time, and he suggests that she tell Masuzu and the others that Michael is fake, but she refuses because it would give her generational aura debt. Fuyume boldly states that no girl in the world doesn't lie, and Ada agrees but scolds her for deceiving him and runs away, so she chases him downstairs. He soon runs into Chiwa and Hime taking a stroll on the festival grounds, and he tries to run away, but Chiwa stops him and asks if he's with Masuzu. After he confirms that he isn't, they drag him to see the fireworks with them, and Fuyume drowns in jealousy as she watches this from the bushes. The next morning, Ada meets up with Masuzu in the club room, and she chews him out for having a secret meeting with Fuyume at the festival before ordering him to kiss her for the amount of time he spent with Fuyume the previous day. However, when he reveals that it's 30 minutes, she accuses him of trying to knock her up and reduces the sentence to 3 minutes, so he kisses her on the cheek. Shortly afterwards, they meet up with Fuyume, who reveals that she's asked the school to rescind the order to ban their club because she now plans to join the club as their love coach. Chiwa immediately objects to this, but Masuzu accepts since they don't have a choice, so Fuyume promises Ada that she'll surely get him to stamp their marriage proposal. During their next meeting, Fuyume suddenly starts acting like the leader, and this annoys Chiwa, so she reminds her that it was thanks to her efforts that their club is still in operation. However, Chiwa points out that she was the one who put them in that situation in the first place, and the two boneheads start bickering until Hime calms Chiwa down with a head pat. Seeing this, Fuyume promises Hime that she'll train her into becoming a proper hoe and pats her on the head. Masuzu claims that Fuyume would make an excellent coach since she has a rich boyfriend, and Fuyume keeps up the facade by bragging that she has more feminine experience than all of them combined, so Chiwa and Hime ask her for tips on how to ask a guy out. However, Fuyume says they're getting it wrong because the right way to go is to make a guy ask them out, so Masuzu proposes that Fuyume show them the proper way to react when being asked out, and Ada is chosen to be the male actor, which makes her flustered. During the play, Ada gives the laziest love confession imaginable, and Fuyume rejects him, but when he decides to give up, she scolds him and tells him to put more effort into the love chase. To remedy the situation, Masuzu decides to consult the Almighty Gamer book, and she tells Fuyume that it's a book written by her past lover, which contains secrets on the best ways to be popular with the opposite gender. Since Masuzu doesn't want to face another round of embarrassment, he finally locks in and drops some fiery pickup lines on Fuyume, which make her body start twitching in freaky ways, and she finally decides to go out with him. She then announces that she and Ada are now a couple while cuddling him, but Ada reminds her that she's a hall monitor, so she pushes him away and claims that she'd never fall for a filthy degenerate like Ada. However, when Ada follows Masuzu's orders to riz her up again, she folds faster than a cheap lawn chair and starts cuddling him again, so Chiwa pushes Ada away from her and scolds her for putting her hands on her hubby. Hearing this, Fuyume drops a bombshell, informing them that she's Ada's close friend as well, who met him a year before Chiwa did, and Ada confirms this, making Chiwa feel miserable. Hime suddenly holds Ada's hand and claims that she and Ada knew each other way before everyone else, because she's his best friend from a past life, and this shocks Fuyume. But Masuzu interrupts by announcing that they've now become an official club since they have 9 members. She then suggests that they go on a summer trip, and Hein suggests going to the beach, because her broke parents can't afford to take her there. So Masuzu decides that the trip will be her maiden voyage. As they discuss plans to buy swimsuits, Chiwa suddenly heads over to the bathroom, where she tries to put a smile on her face, but it's immediately reversed due to the jealousy she feels. When she walks out of the bathroom, Ada asks why she's acting depressed, and she tries to pretend like she's normal. But Ada holds her back and tells her that it doesn't matter which of his homegirls he met first, because he's spent the most amount of time with her. This makes her so happy that she hugs him while swearing that she'll spend more time with him moving forward. After releasing him, she asks him to go swimsuit shopping with her the next day, and he agrees, so she happily hugs him again while saying that she loves him. After school, Ada tells Masuzu about this, and she permits him to go shopping with Chiwa, but he points out that she's weird for going on a beach trip since she can't swim. She explains that she couldn't say no after hearing Hime's request, and brings up the fact that all the other girls are good people who've been friends with Ada for a long time, unlike her, who's just his fake girlfriend. The next day, Ada meets Chiwa for their date, but before they can begin, Masuzu suddenly arrives and justifies her presence there by reminding Ada that she's his girlfriend. Chiwa then starts bickering with her, and Fuyume sees this from a distance, so she punches a pole in anger while calling Ada a womanizer. During the shopping trip, both girls pester Ada with questions about which cultured swimsuit to get, but he yells at them to shut up and decides that they should settle things with a game of rock, paper, scissors. However, during the game, Masuzu lands a cheap shot on Chiwa's head, so Chiwa asks for a rematch, and the two hotheads start dueling with hangers until Ada tells both of them to get changed at once. When they enter their dressing rooms, Hime suddenly pulls Ada into another private dressing room, where she plants her soft oranges on his chest with a tight hug until he gets overwhelmed with Gunnar urges and pushes her away. To make her back down, he promises to take a look at her swimsuit, but once he does, her glorious plots make his brain have a complete meltdown, and she makes things worse by trying to take off the swimsuit, so she runs away from the room. Just then, Fuyume arrives and scolds him for choosing to hang out with other girls instead of her, so he calms her down by promising to pick her swimsuit as well. After she drags him away, Chiwa and Masuzu open their curtains to show him their swimsuits, but they see that he's already gone. As Fuyume shows Ada a wedding dress, the other girls suddenly arrive and chew him out for abandoning them, but they're frozen speechless when they see Fuyume in a wedding dress. Afterwards, Ada has a meeting with all the girls where he decides that he'll spend 20 minutes each with Masuzu, Chiwa, and Hime. But when Fuyume asks to join the fray, they remind her of her claim to have a boyfriend, which makes her regret her life choices. Following this, Ada spends the next few hours having fun with his 3 maidens, but he notices that Fuyume is sulking, so he hands her a magazine to choose a swimsuit, which makes her hug him lovingly. As they walk home, Ada's aunt, Seiko, suddenly arrives and asks Ada which of the girls is his girlfriend. So Masuzu introduces herself, but Seiko says she doesn't want to fake and asks Ada who he truly loves. Seeing that the girls are shocked, Ada tells Seiko that he and Masuzu are a real couple who love each other and do romantic things together, but she holds him like she's about to drop some wisdom, only to faint from hunger on top of him. When they return home, Seiko stuffs her face with enough food to fill 5 buffalo and falls asleep, so Ada explains to the girls that she's the ultimate loafer. Hime suggests going somewhere else to give her space, but Ada says it's fine because she'll wake up in 30 minutes, and Masuzu suggests that they begin their meeting. However, Chiwa interrupts by asking what Seiko meant by fake, and the other girls show interest as well, so Masuzu clears the air by telling them she intends to find out from Seiko as well, since she doesn't like being falsely accused. Ada changes the subject by bringing up how they lack funds for their club trip, and Masuzu asks if anyone knows how to raise funds, so Hime suggests getting part-time jobs, but Fuyumi says they'll need permits from the school to do that. Hearing this, Masuzu playfully suggests selling Ada's sausage, but he refuses and proposes that they change their venue to a restaurant instead, which gets an emphatic no from all the girls. However, a newly awakened Seiko joins the chat and suggests that they play a dating game which she created at her company, and this makes the girls fawn over her. Fuyume brings up the fact that games of that nature are usually X-rated, but Seiko reveals that she only makes games for all ages, and explains that her game can only be played by a girl in love. Since all Hime, Chiwa and Fu Yume are in love with Ada. She claims that they're a perfect match for the game, and they all agree to play it. But Ma Suzu reminds her that she's Ada's girlfriend and asks why she's excluding her. Seiko explains that she'd created so many romantic characters that she can now tell how head over heels a person is, and claims that a fake can only look real if it's more real than the real deal. After hearing this, Ma Suzu still tries to argue, so Seiko suggests that she take a test along with the other girls using a romance app she created, and they all agree to partake in the test. For the first question, she asked how the girls would react if Ada approaches them to geek out about his favorite manga, and all three of Ada's simps say they'll read the manga without hesitation. When it's Ma Suzu's turn, she responds that she'll read the manga and recommend one to him as well because she feels they must know more about each other as a couple, and the others are impressed by her response. However, based on the results, Seiko announces that Fu Yume is the one most in love with Ada, and this makes her so flustered that she yells like a drama queen and runs out of the room. Seiko then reveals that Chiwa placed second, and Chiwa demands to know why she wasn't first. So Seiko explains that she's drowning in the friend zone because she always hangs around him. Afterwards, she explains to Hime that her problem is the opposite of Chiwa's because she needs to put in more effort to communicate with Ada and get to know him. When Ma Suzu asks why she's last, Seiko explains that her answer was too perfect, which means that there was no emotion behind it, and she claims that it's not proper since they've only been dating for 3 months and not years. Ma Suzu complains that it isn't right, so Seiko promises that she'll acknowledge her as Ada's girlfriend if she wins the gaming competition, and Ma Suzu agrees to their terms, so Chiwa decides to participate as well, so she can settle things with Ma Suzu once and for all. Hime asks Ada to promote her to girlfriend if she wins, so Seiko playfully suggests that the winner of the game should be Ada's wife, and Fu Yume suddenly storms in to announce that she's joining through battle. After the girls leave, Ada serves Seiko some food and thanks her for taking care of him, but she says it's the least she can do. While drinking a beer, she advises Ada to pick one of the girls to date, so Ada reminds her that he's already dating Ma Suzu, but Seiko brings up the fact that Ma Suzu hasn't told him about her true feelings yet, which makes him impressed by her intuition. When she asks Ada why he loves Ma Suzu, he gives a vague answer and tries to prove their connection by reading a text where she invites him for a date, but Seiko warns him to be careful not to get hurt. Minutes later, Ada meets up with Ma Suzu on a street, where she admits that she was shocked when Seiko saw through her acting since she'd used it to deceive every other adult so far. She then asks Ada why he's looking worried even though he has nothing to lose if their secret spills, so he explains that the other girls will lose their minds if they find out that they've been lying to them this whole time. Ma Suzu then declares that she'll win the tournament and make everyone acknowledge her as Ada's girlfriend, so Ada decides to help her. The next day, Ada hangs out with Fu Yumi and Kaoru at the library, and afterwards, he returns to his living room, where he gets texts from Hime asking for advice on how to dress up like an OnlyFans model. After ending the call, he heads to his room, where Chiwa tells him through her window that she always felt his relationship with Ma Suzu was strange, but she promises him that she'll win and steal him from her. The following day, Ada and Chiwa meet up with the others at the station, and Ma Suzu suddenly grabs Ada's arm, which makes the others jealous. During the bus ride, Ma Suzu reminds Eita that they have to act like a couple for their plan to succeed, so he casually starts a conversation with her about the Brazzers positions he plans to put her in after marriage, but the other girls just gossip about how he's giving Diddy vibes. Soon after, they arrive at the beach and give Hime her first ever view of the beach, which makes her celebrate. After changing into their swimsuits, Chiwa and Hime start playing around in the water, while Ma Suzu and Ada watch from afar. Fu Yumi searches the beach for Dragon Balls, but she ends up finding a heart-shaped seashell, so she shows it to Ada and invites him to find more with her, but he refuses, causing her to run away angrily. Ma Suzu shows Eita that her banging body has made all the gooners at the beach lose focus, so he marks his territory by putting a towel on her head, but she points out that the other girls are too busy having fun to see them. Minutes later, everyone eats some beach noodles together, and Hime criticizes the taste, leaving Ada impressed that she isn't talking like a drama school reject for once. When Ma Suzu is done with her meal, she sends Ada to get her a watermelon seated in the middle of the beach for dessert, and all the girls start motivating him to slash it like Samurai Jack until he tells them to give it a rest. After putting on the blindfolds, Ada complains that he can't find any sticks around to use on the watermelon, so Ma Suzu explains that he's meant to use his head to split it open. When he begins the task, his 3 simps start giving him directions that lead to them, hoping that he'd recreate a spicy rom-com scene with them by accident. Ada chooses to follow the directions of Ma Suzu, but he slips and grabs her melons, so he plays around with them for several seconds while Ma Suzu holds him tightly until the other girls arrive and punish him. Soon after, everyone is making dinner together, and Ada realizes that they're out of curry powder, so they play a game of rock, paper, scissors to determine who'll take the task of buying some, which Chiwa and Hime end up winning. After they leave, Ada fixes the chandelier, and Fuyume tells Ma Suzu that she once saw her heave a long sigh after rejecting an admirer who confessed his love to her. She admits that she'd get tired of being asked out as well if she were as popular as Ma Suzu, and claims that it wouldn't be strange if she just gave up and dated any random person. However, she says she'll never forgive her if it's the reason she's dating Eika, and this makes Ada worried. But Ma Suzu straight up ignores her and shows her the vegetables, which she peeled the wrong way, causing her to freak out. Later that evening, Ma Suzu tells Ada through a window that they need to show the others definite proof that they're dating, but adds that a physical present won't do since it has to be something that would force them to believe once. She then suggests that he kiss her nonchalantly in front of them as though it was an everyday greeting to them, and this makes him flustered, so she reminds him that a kiss means nothing to anti-love people like them. However, he complains that doing so would put him in a war zone against the other three girls, so she gives him the option to back out of it and asks him to decide if he wants to kiss her or not. A while later, everyone is playing a card game together, and he remembers Ma Suzu's plan, which is that he'd pretend to be tired and stand up for bed, and when she says goodnight to him, he'd whisper some romantic words back to her before kissing. However, when Chiwa asks if he's tired, he says he's still filled with energy, even though he's low-key stuck in a dilemma of having to choose between a harem of baddies and turning 3 against himself. After gathering up some courage, Ada announces that he's tired and waits for Ma Suzu to make her move, but Chiwa throws a wrench in their own by deciding to call it a day, and she hands the fake couple some gift packs. When they open them, they find some cell phone straps shaped with the letter Z, and Chiwa explains that she and the others got matching cell phone straps to show the fact that they're now an official club. Ada is happy that they collaborated on something thoughtful instead of trying to break them up, and Ma Suzu promises them that she'll treasure their present forever. Afterwards, Ada privately apologizes to Ma Suzu for not going through with the kiss, but she reveals that she'd have hated him if he forced a kiss on her, and claims that she can't win the competition since she's wretched, unlike her kind rivals, who bought her a gift. Ada suggests that she forfeit, but she explains that she has to participate to properly face judgment for her actions, and shows him a page from his book, which shows him swearing that he'll become a doctor to save Chiwa. With a warm smile, she thanks Ada for everyone, and assures him that he'll be free after the trip. The next morning, Ada goes to deliver breakfast to Ma Suzu, but she tells him to leave her alone, so he takes a stroll around the beach to clear his head. Suddenly, Mana runs him over with her bicycle, and his hand accidentally lands on her tiny peaches, so she yells at him. When they've calmed down, Ada tells Mana everything that happened with her sister, and she explains to him that Ma Suzu's dad took her away from her mother to live with him because he sees her as an accessory to show off to his high society. She reveals that Ma Suzu kept acting to meet his expectations and kept lying to herself until she eventually forgot who she was. But Ada says life with her hasn't been bad at all, so Mana thanks him for coming to love her sister. Mana then tells him that only a partner in crime would stick with a liar like her sister, so Ada runs as fast as he can to catch her. When he arrives at the game spot, he sees that Chiwa has been called up for her turn, and she gives a cheerful introduction of herself to the crowd. The game master informs her that the next stage is to determine how head over heels she is and asks her to describe the guy she likes, so she tells them about how Ada is an overly serious bookworm whom she can't bring herself to leave because he's her close friend. She then mentions that he's extremely kind since he's done so much for her, and she promises to become a better woman who can compliment him before boldly declaring that she loves him. As the crowd cheers, Ada claps with his cheeks glowing red, and the game master calls Hime to come out for her turn, but she's nowhere to be found, so Ada guesses that she has stage fright. Hime suddenly appears behind him and tells him that she's too shy to go through with the contest, so Ada motivates her by reminding her that she's now a proud member of their club, and Ada adds to this by telling her to drown her fears with love. When he asks what she loves the most, she mentions his name, so he advises her to say she loves him 10 times, and she hugs him while pouring her heart out to him. He then hugs her back and assures her that he'll never hate her, and this makes her heart leap out of her chest. Suddenly, everyone around starts applauding them like they just performed Hamlet, and Seiko shows them that their lovey-dovey display was broadcast on television as Hime's entry in the game. However, the other girls accuse them of foul play and punish Ada for holding Hime. When it's Ma Suzu's turn, Everyone in the crowd drools as she walks to the stage, but she apologizes to all her fans, claiming that she doesn't have the right to participate in the tournament since her boyfriend broke up with her the previous night. Hearing this, the other girls ask Ada why he suddenly dumped her, but he ignores them and charges through a crowd of gossiping fans to tell her to keep playing Ma Suzu until the very end. When she asks why he came there, he says it's to play her boyfriend and asks her to start over with him, so the production crew turns the spotlight on him. Ma Suzu claims that they'll never be a real couple, no matter how close they get, but Ada argues that two fakes are right for each other. However, she points out that he has 3 real lovers around him, but he says they're too good for him and loudly confesses that he loves her. While walking towards her, Ada admits that he thought she was a scumbag with nothing going for her other than her looks when they first met, but he feels that she's the only one for him because no one knows how embarrassing he is more than her. After hearing his passionate speech, she confesses that she's always hated him, and she thought he'd hate her as well after seeing her true colors, but he ended up being nicer to her after getting to know her. As tears stream down her face, Ada asks if they're real tears or fake, but she says she has no idea, so he decides to choose for her. While holding her shoulders, he asks her to stay as his girlfriend and kisses her passionately in front of everyone, causing everyone in the crowd to cheer, aside from Ada's 3 admirers. Despite the K-drama they performed on stage, a young girl ends up winning the tournament for the love poem she wrote for her dad, and none of the girls came home to join Ada for dinner that night. The next morning, Ada wakes up to the shocking sight of Ma Suzu on top of him, and she asks if his words on stage were true, but he shyly tells her that it's a lie because he hates her. However, Ma Suzu says she loves him and starts cuddling his body until Seiko knocks on the door and tells Ada to come downstairs to have a talk with her. In the living room, Seiko points out that Ada is now in a war zone with the other 3 girls, and she suggests that the best way to save himself is to make everyone other than his girlfriend hate him. Following this, Ada meets up with an emotional Hime and tells her that he found out that he's not the burning fighting fighter she admires anymore, but this somehow makes her love him even more, so she cheerfully hugs him. Since he fumbled his first attempt, he meets up with Fuyume and tries to rip up her marriage certificate, but he's distracted by a teddy bear on her bed, so she introduces it as Murata and starts crying while asking why he doesn't remember it. As he searches for a handkerchief to hand her, he accidentally stamps the marriage certificate, causing her to celebrate like she won the lottery. Afterwards, Ada meets Chiwa on the porch, and she starts crying over the fact that she's not as tall or attractive as Ma Suzu. Ada moves in to console her, but she suddenly turns and kisses him before revealing that she's gotten taller recently. With a warm smile, she tells Ada that she loves him, leaving Ada with a face glowing red with shock and embarrassment. Suddenly, Ma Suzu arrives and moves in to confront Chiwa, but Chiwa smiles and tells her she'll never give up on Ada. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed and watch this video on screen.